Hey you guys, and welcome back. Now, I had pretty much resigned myself to the fact that I had not planned on coming back on here or continuing to do commentary. But there's something that has happened that has really just caused me to not be able to remain silent. But for the fact that I have been up most of the night upset by this, and the fact that even today, like, my chest and my stomach is pretty much on fire. It's just certain things that really just eat at you to where you just cannot remain silent. Now, as you all have seen here recently, many people have been talking about the quote unquote anti-Asian hate that has been happening in the country. And if everyone will remember, this first got started when the previous president started blaming China for the virus that caused the pandemic, right? He gave it these little nicknames that kind of attached it to China, not necessarily Asian Americans, but to China. And so because of that, his followers, his constituents, the previous president's constituents, started going out and attacking Asian Americans. Now, what I have seen here lately is I see two separate things that are going on. I see what you see on TV, which is I see Asian Americans coming on TV and talking about all the hatred and the attacks and things like that that have been happening to them. And then I see online Asian Americans, almost like behind the scenes in the shadows, going after and attacking African Americans. And so the issue that I have is that when this first really started picking up steam, many of the Asian media outlets started putting out stories and showing stories of black people attacking Asians. And they called it anti-Asian hate. When these were not targeted, there was nothing in these that said this person is going after and attacking specifically Asian people. There was one that they showed, and that one was the first one that I saw, where it was an East Indian man, and there were I think there were two who were African American, and then there was another young woman there, and I'm not exactly sure if she's black. To me, she doesn't look to be black. She looks like she's some other ethnicity, but I don't know, maybe she's biracial. Okay, and she was the one that, snatched the mask off the guy's face and, called him, the N-word, and they painted that as an anti-Asian attack, when anybody who knows anything would know that these women would have attacked anybody who did the same thing. They didn't attack him because he was Asian. They attacked him because they have behavioral issues. Lord have mercy if it had been a black woman. If it had been a black woman who was the driver, not only would worse have happened, they probably would have jumped out the vehicle and pulled her out and beat her down in the street, right? Because those were the kind of women who were in that video. But they painted it as an anti-Asian hate crime. That's the way that they painted it. What I find so interesting is that you have this narrative of black people are going around looking for Asian people to attack. Meanwhile, the thing that kicked all this off was the previous president, who is not black, riling up his constituents by giving the pandemic, the virus, all these different nicknames that are associated with China. And then his constituents, who overwhelmingly are not black, going out and attacking Asians. Meanwhile, and this is the thing that really prompted me to say something, they are trying to put out an anti-Asian hate crime bill. Now, you may be perplexed as I was, because I was under the assumption, and I'm correct, that we already have federal hate crime laws. So if our VP said that they were not going to do anything exclusively for black people, one, why are they putting out a hate crime bill just for Asians, for a virus that they themselves believe to be temporary? This is not something, they are not planning on COVID being with us forever and for always. That's why they're pushing the vaccines, to try to get the whole, globe back to normal, because they believe that once people are vaccinated, that they're going to have herd immunity. That's their belief. That's why they're pushing it so hard. So they don't believe that the virus is going to be with us forever. So you are going to put in a crime bill that's specific to one particular group. Two, you're putting it in when you already have laws in place that would cover them as well. So what is the point of doing something specifically for them? The first half is a big chunk of why they need it. And there's nothing in there special or specific that would make it so that they need to have one specifically for Asians. We're talking about a year that this has been going on, not 400 years, not several centuries, a year. So I'm just going to read part of it just so you can get an idea. And I'm going to tell you why that's important, especially for Black Americans, and especially the reason why Black Americans need to be perking their ears up right now for 2022 and 2024. And so again, the first part is just, why they need it. And they just listed out all this other fluffy stuff that just, they're just trying to, it looks like they're just using it as filler, because they have this long list of why they need something specific. And again, it's nothing special that will require them to have something separate from everybody else in the country. And so where it talks about what they want this bill to do, it starts off at number 4. It says, calls on federal law enforcement officials working with state and local officials to expeditiously investigate and document all credible reports of hate crimes and incidents and threats against the Asian American community in the United States, to collect data to document the rise of incidences of hate crimes due to COVID-19, and to hold the perpetrators of those crimes, incidents, or threats accountable and bring such perpetrators to justice, and recommence United States leadership in building more inclusive, diverse, and tolerant societies, to prioritize language access and inclusivity in communication practices, and to combat misinformation and discrimination that put Asian Americans at risk. Now, most all of us in the Black community know how Asian Americans treat us. They are many times racist, hateful, demeaning, dismissive of the pain and the things that we have gone through as a people in this country. They ridicule us. I can't tell you how many times I've heard Asians, when a Black person calls them out for their racism against Black people, they say, well, that doesn't work on us. We didn't have anything to do with slavery. We don't have white guilt. How many times have y'all heard that from Asian Americans? Before all of this happened with the virus, they were telling us that racism was over, that there was no such thing as racism, that we just need to get over it because that was 100 years ago. Now that it's them and it's only been a year, now all of a sudden there's racism. Now all of a sudden there's discrimination. When it was us, they told us to get over it. Before all of this happened, you saw all of these videos coming out, and I put a couple of them up on my channel of where you saw Asian store owners. Many times they were men punching Black women, hitting Black women, kicking Black women in the back, throwing them to the ground, pinning them to the ground, screaming, yelling, doing all of these things. Now, even if you want to say, oh, well, they thought those people were stealing, or that person was stealing. When was the last time you saw a store owner that wasn't Asian dealing with another customer like that who wasn't Black? Anyone who has ever worked at Wally World knows that when you are working there, they tell you if you see someone shoplifting, do not approach them. Go tell management. And in most cases, management doesn't do squat. Or better yet, just look up the data on who is most likely to be a shoplifter in this country. And then think back to the last time you saw anybody of any ethnicity, of any race, wrestling them to the ground, punching them in the face, kicking them in the back, and then everybody else standing around and justifying it. But in the Black community, when it comes to Black people, Asians are allowed to do this to Black people in Black people's communities because of how this country as a whole feels about Black people. But Asians are the ones who need a specific hate crime bill for them. Am I missing something? Did we just not hear just recently, just after the election, did we not just hear how Black people pretty much carried the election? That's not to say that no one else voted, but I guarantee you that election would have went completely different if every Black person would have stayed their Black behind at the house. It would have gone completely different. So it's extremely perplexing to me that the group of people, the race of people who traditionally vote the most and who do a great deal to determine who will be in office, their representatives who they help a great deal to get into office, say that they are not going to do anything exclusively or especially for black people, but they will immediately, almost as soon as they get into office, do something for the group of people who traditionally vote the least. The only reason why there was a surge in the Asian vote is because of the previous president and because he was a threat to them. Otherwise, it would have just been the traditional low voter turnout that it usually is. And so this is why I want to prep black Americans that now is the time, not 1 or 2 months before when you don't really know who you're voting for. Now is the time to prepare for the 2022 midterms and the 2024 presidential election. Now is the time to be paying attention to what is going on and who is doing what for who. When it's time for them to get back in office, you can make an educated decision about whether or not you are going to go and cast your vote or whether or not you're just going to remain at home. And I say that because I know that for many of us, the thought of voting for the other side is just too atrocious. But the thing about it is, if the other side were smart, they would actually seize the opportunity. What the other side tries to do is what they see the Democrats do. They try to just say a whole bunch of little pretty words and not really, do anything, have no intention of ever really doing anything. But if they were smart, they would look at this as an opportunity to pick up a large, humongous chunk of votes. Because I'm going to tell you that if it had not been for the previous president, if any other just regular Joe Blow politician had been in office, he probably would have gotten reelected. Things wouldn't have gone the way that it did. The reason why it went the way that it did, because so many people wanted to get the previous president out. They wanted him out of here. And so for the next election, if you don't have someone who's coming up, who's going to stir people up and make people be like, oh, hell no, we not going to have this. If you don't have that, and you are ignoring, you are insulting, you are demeaning, you are disrespecting a huge chunk of your voter base, that is going to leave a lot of room for things to go completely different in the next presidential election. So far as this bill, if I were you, I would take note of every politician who is voting for this bill. Now, usually when they know that people are watching and looking what they're doing, they'll do what they can to try to hide the things that they're doing. And then the next thing you know, it's just out there. But for black Americans, I will say this. If they don't come to the black community and say, look, we want to try to put some things in place to make things right, or to begin that process, or to focus on what we can do to help you to improve your lives, to stop some of the hatred and the racism that is impacting you and it has impacted you for centuries on end. If they don't do that, then you can just assume that they've done what they've always done, which is to help everyone else but you. Because I can tell you one thing, when they pass that bill, that anti-Asian hate crime bill, rest assured that the Asian Americans who have been for so long, for decades, being hateful and racist towards black Americans, they are going to use this against us as well. You know how black people have been telling other black people, look, these people mistreat us. They come to our communities, they set up stores, and then they mistreat the people who are their customers, and nothing's ever done about it. So you should just stay out of their stores. You should stop going to their stores. You should stop spending money with them. When people were saying this before, and the last time was when the video came out of people in China mistreating the Africans. And so a lot of people here in the States were like, which this is perplexing to me because I don't understand this, how these people are mistreating you in your neighborhood, in your face, and it takes Chinese people across the ocean mistreating Africans for you to wake up and be like, I'm going to stop spending money with these people. That's perplexing to me. But that was the last time you heard a lot of Black Americans saying, we need to stop spending money with these people because they disrespect us, they're demeaning, they're dismissive, they're, disrespectful, they laugh and ridicule at our pain, at our suffering. They laugh at us, they make fun of it. It's enjoyable to them for us to be suffering and in pain. So we should stop spending our money with them. You had Asian Americans actually saying to Black Americans that it was racist, that it was hateful for them to not spend money with Asians and Asian businesses when Asians are mistreating them. They said that was racist and hateful to not spend money with someone who disrespects and is hateful and racist to you. They said that was racist. So when this bill comes out, I guarantee you there are going to be Asian Americans making the case that it is racist and hateful for Black people to refuse to come into their shops and spend money with them when they treat them like dogs. They punch them in the face. Grown Asian men punching Black women in the face, wrestling them to the ground, punching, kicking them in the back. I guarantee you they're going to be telling you that it's racist. And they are going to use this bill to try to attack you and harm you and punish you for not spending your money with people who openly hate you. So I had to speak on this because this is the ultimate disrespect. The ultimate disrespect. After being told that nothing will be done just for Black people or specifically for Black people. And then they come and do this when one is not even needed. We already have the laws in place. It's not even needed. And then two, you do this especially for a community who has just been experiencing this for 1 year. So you won't do anything specific for the one that's been experiencing this for 400 years, but you will do it for the one that's been experiencing it for 1 year. Then when you look at the bills and amendments that the representative who put this anti-Asian hate crime bill out, when you look at the bills that she has been involved with, the majority of them have to do with benefiting Asian Americans. I would be interested to see any Black American representative where that is the case for them. Because if it is, I want to see what the Black communities look like in those people's district. I want to see if the bills that they've been involved with are things that actually provide tangible results for bettering the Black community. I want to see if those representatives have done that and or if they have been allowed to just focus on improving or primarily focus on improving the people who belong to their own race. I would be interested to see that. This is the ultimate disrespect of the humanity of Black Americans. It's just like saying these people over here are going to get this special treatment because they're humans and you're not. Because they're valuable and you're not. Because even though you were a huge part in getting us in office, we see value in them, but we don't see any in you. The ultimate disrespect. Black Americans, keep your eyes open for 2022 and 2024. Now is the time to start these conversations and get this information out there so people will have it in their minds. Okay, 2022 is coming up and we finna do a quick review and see what it is that we need to do. Are we going to vote? Who are we going to vote for? Or are we staying at the house and letting the model minorities and the preferred people of color get out there and get the souls to the poll? What we doing? But right now is the time where we need to start information gathering and sharing information amongst one another. Okay, you guys, as you know, I rarely ask you in my videos to share a video. But I do want you to share this video because I do want the message to get out to our people that we need to start perking our ears up now. We need to start paying attention to the differential treatment and to when people are blatantly in our faces being disrespectful. So please share this video. Give me a thumbs up if you like the video. Comment. And I will see you on the next video. Thanks.